Hello, hello. Back at it again. How are you guys doing? Sorry I had to leave you. Got a little crazy, so it was hard to concentrate, and I was pretty burned out. You will be the stream I'll fall asleep to. No, I'll fall asleep first. I'm worn out because I went to bed at like 3 o'clock in the morning last night and got 4 hours of sleep. So while I was streaming this afternoon, I was like falling asleep, and like the house is flying apart around me. Kids are running around, and yeah. Alright, Enrique, glad I can be a stabilizing force. So I believe Arumba is gonna be doing an Ask Me Anything session with all of the developers for MNT 2.0. So I'm gonna try, and I don't want to steal his thunder or anything while he's streaming. So I'll probably transfer over to his Twitch channel when he does it. I think it's at 9 o'clock, so in like an hour. So I thought I'd do a little bit of polish and maybe play a tiny bit more, see how many people we get. I'm starting to wonder whether I really should like stream everything I do. It's kind of, my idea is that it could eventually be pretty helpful when I'm developing stuff to have people who are interested look over what I'm doing and give some ideas and some perspectives and stuff like that. Mr. Boxer, maybe not audio-wise, but I'd like to try and answer some questions. Depends if I fall asleep or not. We got some tea. Hopefully, will keep me awake through that. So you guys honestly okay with like watching the development process as well? Because I have no idea whether real-time spell check. I have no idea whether it's interesting or not, or whether people are being polite. It's kind of the idea is kind of to demonstrate it along with the game being played as well. And it's good for me because I get to see bugs in action. So like this event popped up, and I'm like, I haven't seen this event in like 8 months. I haven't polished it at all. All right, cool. Thanks, guys. And so I'm looking at it, I'm like, this pops up for the player, and first off, the picture could probably use some work, but this doesn't really tell us what we need to know. And I've got kind of a little bit obsessive about trying to convey as much information to the player as possible. And so a tooltip here that says like, oh, the craftsman will look someplace else to settle. That would be a good thing to add. Yeah, I'll be happy to stream anytime I play MNT 2.0. It'd be cool to stream a multiplayer series. 'Cause, dude, I had so much fun back with the previous builds when I played with the rest of the Mew and Taxes team. Tons and tons of fun. It was the most fun I think I've ever had with EU4, maybe short of this session I've played now. Is I haven't played a complete game since, it's kind of embarrassing, but since I recorded my gameplay demonstration video, Yeah, and we can pull people in from the stream too. People with good computers and good connections and stuff like that. That'd be a lot of fun. Christopher? Yeah, it is. Or just staying on really good terms with your nobles too. If you can find a way to stay in good with your nobles and sort of bootstrap their loyalty to expand a lot. I mean, look at their they lost Constantinople, so their levies died down. But if you're in a pretty rural area like in Poland with not many cities, levies can get super powerful. Hey, Ken. So let's take a look at this event. and try and figure out a way to make it more specific, tell the player more about what's happening. So we want to make a custom tooltip. First off, let's find the event, pop urban goods chosen. I'm going to open up off screen. Actually, no, I think we may have the event somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. So it was 006. All right, so here's the criteria for when to fire it, I think. Let's choose a random province. So people, right, they're fleeing. They show up at one of these locations. It can't already have a luxury good, and it can't already have been visited by an artisans fleeing recently. And so then it knocks us down here. Emigres arrive. I haven't touched any of this code in like ages, so it's probably look a little bit crude. As part of the modding process and the writing process too, if you're like a literary person, that a lot of people aren't very good at oftentimes, revision. And revision is so important. You really wanna check your work and go back and make it better repeatedly. And I'm kind of an obsessive revisionist. I love to go back and constantly tune and tweak things and make them look better, more polished. Thanks, Andrew. Christopher, it's kind of the answer that I give a lot of people is it's not, Mew and Taxes isn't Demi Sky, the Tyrants mod. A lot of other people play it too, and not to mention different people like different things. Some people like having lots of extra events, some people don't. If it were up to me, I'd lean out the events quite a bit, and then really make sure that each event is purposeful. Like, if you were watching a Roomba stream, like all of the new events I made pertaining to noble privileges and stuff like that, he would stop, he would look at them, and sit there for like a minute and be like, well, what do I do? What's the best choice? And that's how I think just about every event should be. You should have fewer events spamming the crap out of you, and more events that make you really think about what you should do. Yeah, Saurav, I think it's like 9 o'clock. Yeah, 45 minutes. I think you're right, Kinkin. Oh, sorry, Mr. Boxer. Alright, we'll come back. Yeah, if you guys can actually... You guys have probably been watching streams and stuff longer than me. So if you can give me some advice about the right way to kind of run a channel. And actually, my brother just set up a forum for me in Gaming Rebellion. I was going to go there, and if you guys wanted to hang out in the forum with me at some point and help me brainstorm about kind of building this developers community, that'd be really cool. And even if you don't feel like you expect to be like a programmer or anything like that, people's ideas are still really useful. More brains are better than just one. Anyone who's followed along with the the 600 pages of developers diaries we have on the Paradox forums, hey Walby, anyone who's been there knows that we've pitched so many ideas, many of them which have made it into the mod. I couldn't have come up with it. Wouldn't be anything like it is right now without everyone else's input. Well, thanks, Gage. I appreciate that. Yeah, we definitely want to make my own game. The Paradox, they're a very unique company. There aren't many game company creators now that game companies that really are idealistic and care about new and creative concepts. How many games like Europa Universalis are there out there? Not many. Everyone's trying to make the next WoW clone or the next StarCraft clone, the next first-person shooter. No one's ever willing to go outside their genre, or go. No one's ever willing to go outside a conventional genre. And Paradox did that, with their grand strategy games. So I really commend them in that regard. That being said, their mechanics tend to be very, what's the term? Simplistic, I guess. I mean, it's like they pour a million simplistic mechanics onto you, and The fact that there's millions of them kind of makes it complex, I guess. But none of them are necessarily deep, it seems, and that's usually my complaint. Even then, though, it's still a good game. I still like it. Yeah, Wallaby, that could be very useful. As I'm, most of you guys are going to be way smarter than me when it comes to computer science, and I could really use that help. All right, so let's go ahead and polish this event up here. Let's get a tooltip first off for the first part of this event. If we turn them away, the emigres move on, right? So let's go ahead and hide the fact that this event is being fired, right? So it's choosing a random province based on these criteria, and it's firing this event, and it's this event which is showing up right here. But that doesn't explain anything, right? The event craftsmen flee from abroad happens where? Happens in the province, it doesn't specify. So what we should do is we should just go ahead and reformat this, hide this effect so that it doesn't show up in the options, and then instead create a custom tooltip which emigres will continue fleeing. That's kind of wordy, but whatever. And then we can go ahead and I should put this in I'm going to put it here, just because it belongs kind of with the event, even though you shouldn't normally be mixing and matching your custom tooltips and your event localizations. I'm going to put it here since it's pretty much where you find it anyway. So emigres will continue to flee. Yeah, Gideon. I mean, that's true to an extent. I buy every DLC just because I wanna support the company. Yeah, so that's an interesting. That's actually a debate I'd like to have with everyone on the forums once I make the forums and set it up. Because how much you're able to do as a developer depends on whether you can remain financed. The thing that bothers me about Paradox is they will release a DLC and then the game could be virtually unplayable or have severe problems unless you also have the DLC. So like Common Sense, when Common Sense came out, you had the DLC adding the ability to do a whole bunch of different things like add development, and if you didn't have the DLC, the development was still there, but you couldn't do anything with it. And it didn't really seem. It was kind of a coercive way to get you to download the DLC just to play the game you already liked, So, yeah, that kind of teed me off a little bit. Let's see, the emigres. The emigres will move on to another viable city on the continent. And we can color code it if we want. I don't know if that's necessary. And then we can come up with another one. Emigres allowed to settle. And this will be the tooltip which we will embed some variables into so that we can say how much production skill is gained and then how much production skill we need still to get the luxury good in question. Let me catch up with your conversation real quick. Interesting debate here. That's cool to hear, Andrew. I would have killed for this kind of thing in when I'm in grad school. I was never very good at I was never a horrible student, but I was an okay student, but I always did better when I had people to collaborate with and work with and learn with. So yeah, I kind of feel the same way about watching other people work too. Yeah, Ken. Paradox makes niche games. That means that each individual person will need to invest more into the game than you would in the mass market game. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I mean, that's the way it is with books, right? Specialty books, academic books, and stuff like that. Have to drop like $350 to get some book about an obscure subject because only 1,000 have been printed or something. So. Yeah, yeah, Gideon. That's an interesting point. Paradox. I'm worried about them, getting too big league and then kind of losing touch with their creative control element and kind of like, once you start seeing dollar signs, there's so many other AAA game companies. It's like, do we really need one more? No, I'm not English. I'm from the United States. I'm in Florida. I'm from Grenada, obviously. Yeah, this would be a great. I do want to participate. Um, yeah, Velprox, I agree. Um, it would be good to be able to. Like, I don't really care, and I'm not a really money motivated person, but I have a family support to help support, and so it's like I would love to be doing this kind of thing, developing as opposed to scrubbing fish poop out of fish tanks, and risking electrocuting myself and stuff like that. And so if I could make money off it, I could turn my hours in the day toward this type of thing. So yeah, I'll have to talk about Twitch maybe later. So yeah, maybe if we can all talk about that in the forums when I set them up, I'll probably run a stream where we can talk about it at some point. Let me go ahead and sort this out here. So we want to take this tooltip. You can continue talking, guys, if you want. And so we're actually getting urban skill changed by 25. So what we need to actually do here. So, okay, so we need a custom tooltip. There, decide to settle. And what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to specify to the player how much skill is being given, how much skill is already there. So what we'll want to do first off is we'll want to set a new variable that we can express in that tooltip to the player. So we can call it urban production skill olds. Right, this is the old value. We'll declare it here so that it exists, right? And then we can go ahead and then we can go ahead and set it to a pre-existing variable that we've already calculated, which of course will be just urban production skill. And then what am I trying to do here? Let's see. Let me look at the event itself so that, yes, give them what they need. So lose 25 ducats. This province will gain 25 urban production skill. We're going to want to highlight that in green text plus 25. I think that should look good. Urban production skill. Giving. Now here's a little thing you can do, which states the name of the province just for flavor. Giving this province a total of total of. I'm looking for something I can use as a template here. Here we go. Okay. This province will gain plus 25 urban production skill, giving the province a total of. Well, actually, I shouldn't call it. Okay, so we need that value now. It should actually be. We should actually calculate new value here. Right, so new value, urban skill, change variable. Oops, wrong brackets. Which equals urban production skill new. Value equals 25. Alright, so this will say what your new value will be. And then we're going to go ahead and embed this in the localization so the player can see it. So they can know, oh, this province will gain 25 urban production skill, and that let's go ahead and add the province name again. So province name will gain 25 urban production skill, giving province name a total of this much. If province name reaches 75, it will promote to a luxury good. Now we check to make sure we have all the appropriate stuff. It's not inside the hidden effect, so everyone should be able to see it. So now, let's go ahead and test it out, see how it looks. And now I will try and catch up on all the comments. Okay, scrolling up. Bet there's a better way to do this. Jacob, that's interesting. That's some interesting information there. That's good. Yeah, I still have faith in Paradox. Every company is going to have to make choices motivated by commerce, because at the end of the day, if you're not making money, you're not making games. All right, Ken, I just can't find out how to log into my account. Loop, blah blah blah. All right, Roomba does Excel on streams. Yeah, Wallaby, that's interesting. Yeah, Strategos, it's no, I assumed it would be a really sort of fringe thing. Like, I had this idea for a while, but mainly as a means of me getting help and me helping other people. But it seems, and it's kind of incredible how many people have expressed interest in it. So I don't know, maybe we can run with it and see what we get. I mean, it's doubly good because what could be cool is if we can actually draw on that pool of people later on. Whoops, I didn't hide this. And it would be cool if for some reason it were to succeed in some way, and I could kind of get a little movement going to be able to just hire people right out of that community that have been around for a while. Okay, so here we can see the localization's working just fine. For some reason, it's not. That's weird. It's not expressing the province that is the target in the localization. And I need to hide this. I accidentally. That's a really rookie mistake. I'm getting used to explaining my reasoning while I'm coding. In some ways it's helpful, in some ways it's distracting. But I have a feeling it'll be better in the long run. I taught for a while in college, and it was really helpful to understand concepts and to master them much better when you're actually teaching them. Okay, so we're hiding this so no one sees it. No one wants to know what calculations are being made in the background. Question is, why are the localizations failing? Let me see what you guys are saying. Oh, Jacob, is there really a lot of deep streams on Twitch? Christian, that's so funny. About Johan sniffing like crazy. Yeah, Jacob, that... Huh. Very interesting. Oh, yeah, Surf, absolutely. I agree. And not just that, but be very transparent with what you're anticipating doing and how to monetize and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'd love to get that kind of plan going. Get everyone's input. But, you know, at a certain point, you know, over discussing something too, and like, so for instance, my brother right now is working on making a new retro game on old consoles, you know. And he's got a bunch of people in the conversation, and to a certain point, if you discuss too much and there's too many people in the conversation and there's not enough there's no one there to like move it forward and say, okay, discussion's over, time to do something, you just can end up wasting a lot of time too. So, you know, talk is cheap. You actually, at the end of the day, you gotta sit down and code like crazy. Okay, let me honestly E4. Let's try. I'm gonna have to skip over some of these conversations. Sorry. Yeah, Dev Turtle. I'm gonna consider a Twitch stream. Remember, I just started this like yesterday by accident. I had no idea people would want to watch this. So yeah. Come here. Gauge. That's kind of funny, actually. But I'm still not. At Demi, and when is 1.21 coming out? Oh, you mean our upgrade to it? I'm not entirely sure. It really blew up lots of stuff. But who has 1.9k subs? Scandinavian by pillage wealth. Clever Surf. Okay. No, maybe this localization was working already. Maybe I just need to refire the event at a specific province. So let's go into debug mode. Let's aim at 3781. As I think there's a workshop there. Whoops again. Whoops again. My pop filter's in the way. I can't see what I'm doing. I need a better setup here for sure. 3781. No, why isn't it showing up? Dagnammit. And that's... Huh. Yeah, well, you know, when it comes to content, man, good programmers and content creators, I mean, that costs a lot of money. So Gage, I agree in a lot of ways, and in other ways I'm a little reluctant because I've never been in their position having to make those choices. So it's hard to tell. But then again, Paradox is like a multi-billion-dollar company, believe it or not. I know they're worth a lot. So it's not like they're starving, that's for sure. But yeah. But as long as they're making people happy, I guess. So I gotta figure out why the province is not being listed. So it's This is kind of a flee from abroad. Wait, I think I know why. Because of the nature of the way that event's being fired. So it's picking a random province, but then it's firing a province event. And so when the province event shows up, it should be fine. It's a province event. Why is this a problem? I think I know why. I just don't think you can actually put province name in tooltips. Kind of a dumb reason. The flying pan, how much time has it cost me? Well, let me open up my Steam account and take a look at how many hours played. 9,596 hours. So maybe half of that I've spent actively coding or something like that. Christian, that is probably true. I mean, when you get down to it, like me personally, one guy who's never coded before, like, you know, redid the entire state system, all the code, and just from that side, it's doing it as a volunteer job, even though I have a real job and everything. It doesn't take that long necessarily. Okay, thanks, Gentle Doom. Thanks for confirming that. I was just in the process of looking that up on another screen. Yeah, so we'll just say this province. It's not as neato, but hey, whatever. Oops. Giving or the province. So we want people to actually know where this is happening, right? So we can actually put it in the title. Craftsman flee from abroad to province name. Urban skill, if the province reaches 75, it will promote to a luxury good. It will soon promote to a luxury good. Alright, let's go ahead and test it out again. You know, Gage, I've wondered. This is the thing, and this is what a lot of you other people in here who are formally trained in CS will know. Like, I'm only now learning like a proper object-oriented programming language, but I wonder whether it's harder or easier to do, for instance, like what I did with the states in the with a proper language. Because when I rebuilt the states, it was almost entirely done with the variable system, which was actually inferior to like C++ or C#. So I'd imagine it would even be easier, but maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to tell. There's just a lot I don't really know, so I'm still a little reluctant to judge. Here we go. And just to make it a little bit better, when I'm in the polishing process, I'll be like, it would be better if we actually just put an extra space here. And /n is what adds a space, so it'll look a little better with an extra space there. Can for sure, absolutely. On the subject of DLC, though, it's kind of a different subject, though. I mean, the base game, is I'd say you had to be like 50 times harder than like building, a component in a DLC for sure. But modding, the kind of modding that we're doing with 2.0 is nothing like the kind of modding that a lot of other mods have. It's quite different. I'll be right back, okay? And then I'll start with the flying pan. Okay, so flying pan. So how do we determine the population of each province? What kind of research did you do? I didn't do any research. That was Alderon and Cardinal, who are two historian demographers on the team. They're the ones that dug into all the literature, determined where all the pops should be. And then what I did was basically, here, I'll show you. Let me start up another one. I used all their data and all of the topographical data that Lumen and Cardinal actually worked on too, and then took the special features, basically all the data that's on the ground, right, and the geographic factors, and then I made a startup event, which then procedurally generates. It's pretty long. It's about almost 18,000 lines of unique code, and I'll show you what happens here. So it took all the variables that they found, right, and then just procedurally generated all of the pop variables that exist in game, based. It's basically one big extrapolation, based, kind of informed by history, right? So for instance, let's look at Granada, right? There's a lot of cities in Granada and in Andalusia, lots of urban population. Well, how can there be a lot of urban population there? There must be fairly high farming efficiency in order to support them, right? Oh, look, Cardinal did research and found that silk was produced in these various provinces. If silk is being produced there must be a fairly robust urban industry. So therefore, we populated, everything with the right buildings, right? Let me show you the startup event real quick. So the actual variables that you start out with on the ground aren't very sophisticated. I mean, there's not nearly as much as what we'll have in just a moment. And so you see, time is ticking away. I'll turn that off for now. And then when we hit February, you'll notice some slowdowns. Now you see all of the various variables are now being populated. So see, added mines, added CE, added urban infrastructure, added extra goods wherever it's pertinent. Farming efficiency, calculated the most plausible places for important centers of trade, and special modifiers. Right, so then all those variables get populated, and it calculates plausible wealth of the area, and not just that, but then it calculates all the underlying conditions for for what the carrying capacity of all of the regions are. So that's something Luhmann did. He went and dug around and looked at all the things in 1356 or around 1356 that happened in all the different areas. And if an area got thrashed, then that means the population is artificially low. So Provence got hit really hard by the plague, right? So that means that their pop is way lower than the actual carrying capacity of the lands. So therefore, that was modified. That was modified by this value, right? So what that's going to do at game start is to push the value of the population up faster, because there's lots of good land there that families can settle on. Right, so that's how we determine like carrying capacity and everything. You can see every area, every region gets special data to inform it, and then we do all the background calculations related to population growth, set things in motion. You can see historic innate fertility is modified a bit by terrain as well. Ideal population level is land under cultivation. And yeah, you can see, there's you can see farming efficiency is calculated. This is before we had loops, so kind of had to do it the long way. Never really got around to messing with it. So this is how there's kind of an informal loop here where tickers being counted down and farming efficiency is being added based on pertinent variables. And what you end up with is something like this. All right, and then after everything's assigned, then we have a good bit of diversity based on the criteria that we set, right? So it's really, it's just a massive procedural generation algorithm. It reminds me a little bit of like how a tree grows, or that's interesting. Okay, anyway, did that answer your question? Let's see, it's 8:47. Yeah, Kalak, definitely gonna try and make some games for sure. So flying pan. So population isn't determined by any historical numbers, but more by other factors. No, it's definitely historical numbers. The population numbers are actually, those are the one things you can count on as far as being like absolutely positively accurate. No modern soil or agricultural specialist was going around taking data on population in 1356. So obviously we have to extrapolate the those numbers, farming efficiency and things like that. But the population is definitely right, and all the trade centers are in the correct location. The goods that are all being produced in different places are proper, from mined goods to even things like mundane goods. So all of that's all accurate. What are the centers of production, right? So Flanders was a huge center of production. That's all represented, right? Centers of trade are in the right places. Natural harbors are in the right places. Proper straits are in the right places. That's all accurate. That's all historical. So this is a history lesson you really couldn't get anywhere else, I think. Certainly couldn't get it from a book. Kind of off topic, but how do you plan on moving from a horde to a monarchy? That's a long topic. I'll have to get to that a little later. Are we going to join a Roomba stream? Yeah, I would. And then I'll join you guys, probably. I guess I'll explain the horde to monarchy thing. The idea is that when you're a horde, if you tend to conquer lots of nobles, you end up becoming an Altaic monarchy. So you kind of like the White Horde, right? They're kind of half and half. There's tribal components, but there's also some settled components too. And the idea is gradually the underlying factor which will ultimately drive tribes toward sedentary lifestyles is economic development. And from there, they need the legalism institution, and then they have a chance to settle, and then a tribe will flip into nobles. But eventually, I want a system where everyone's government is contingent on the type of estates they have. So you go to, I can't really go to Venice right now. I haven't calculated everything yet. So let's go back to the Romans for a second. What would be cool, and this is kind of already true, is if every country's government was very heavily influenced by the estates that exist in that government. So we go to Venice. Burghers dominate, and so naturally they're a merchant republic. Go to Florence. Burghers dominate, therefore they are a republic as well, right? Merchant-oriented republic. Same thing with Genoa. And so let's say you were Aragon, and you built up your burghers big time, and then eventually they significantly outnumbered all of the other estates. Then it would make sense that they would shift toward being a merchant republic, right? Conversely, if Venice were to end up with lots and lots of nobles and fewer burghers, it would make sense that they would end up flipping toward a monarchy again, right? Same kind of principle I would imagine could work with hordes as well, right? The more nobles you end up with and the less powerful your tribes become, the more likely you are to flip toward an Altaic monarchy, which is like halfway. And then once you get even more nobles, eventually you would flip to like a monarchy, right? That's kind of how I would envision it. So if you want to change your government, you have to actually change the power structure of your society, right? A bunch of nobles aren't going to create a merchant republic oriented toward, urban wealth and trade. Doesn't make sense. Duel, technically, it is possible. We were toying with the idea, but we'll see. Yeah, command dude, what Ellenstein said. I was thinking that the state, quote unquote, might control a province where there is tons and tons and tons of government influence. So, for instance, Ming, right? Level 3 capital. That would justify the estate being the state, but not really a high priority. There wouldn't be state icons all over the place. It would just be a very specialized situation. But right now, the state is not. It's assumed that whatever autonomy, if you have low autonomy, the state has a lot of control there. So you need the transcribe code contained in them. So I guess everyone's right on that point. Yeah, and it wouldn't be that hard, little believe it or not. It wouldn't be very hard at all, because the conditions, we've already written all of the conditions. The conditions are there. I've already put them on the ground, right? So, for instance, let's look. Let me show you. We're running out of time before Roomba's presentation, but let's look at a save file, for instance. If we want to look under the hood. Well, first off, let me find... I've crammed everything into one thing here, pop estates. So, for instance, here's the general census for estates, which calculates all the stuff that involves estates every single year. So, first off, the census event calculates how powerful the influence of city dwellers and rural dwellers are. That's rural weight and urban weight, and then that applies to the conditions on the ground, what estate owns what province, And so all of these variables already exist to determine how a country should flip based on estate power. All you really need to do is just go ahead and create a few events that would make that flip, and you would create a controversy. The nobles obviously would not want to go from a monarchy to like a merchant republic, right? So you'd have a conflict between the two estates in question. So that would be mainly where the work is, but all of the foundation is already there. Show the map mode in Asia under year. Yeah, Gideon, that's something that KJ's working on. Okay, so you wanted to see population. So remember, population grows over time, so things will look a bit different. But you can see, China's pretty beefy. India's pretty beefy, and you don't really find any other comparable places in the world compared to the Ganges, and the Yangtze and the Yellow. Well, southern India, is pretty significant too, and the Nile Delta. Interesting, Yemen. I still could never get over the fact that Yemen was so populated, but it's true. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of control commando over population. Remember, Black Death just obliterated Europe, so yeah, it's relative to the rest of the world. Yeah, I was told that too, Jewel. Old habits die hard, kind of. But yeah, in order to not screw up my Byzantine game. Oyukata, what do you mean? And the using insertion sort on binary tree to get a lot of performance. Let's see, I'm gonna go check out. Gonna see what's going on with the Roomba real quick. Alright, so let's see. Starting soon. There'll be a special AMAA. Okay, let me go ahead and link this here. Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Kalak. Yeah. Oyukata. Apparently, a good idea, but mods. It's interesting because not many players actually play mods, but they tend to buy a lot of DLC, which is good. And so, from Paradox's perspective, how much effort do they want to really spend on modders? Yeah, Little Eno, that's true too. I mean, Magnamundi basically flipped Paradox the bird after Paradox helped finance them, licensed the engine to them, and so, I mean, David Bunk, maybe, depends on how long it goes. But I need to get better sleep tonight because as much fun as last night was, I got like 4 hours of sleep, and if I'm going to be flying to Sweden in a week, I need to not be sick. Oh, how many urban goods? Yeah. So, okay. Well, this is not the beginning of the game. I forgot. Well, if Paradox does that again, they need a different model for how to interact with ambitious development teams. The problem is mod teams make horrible commercial development teams. It just doesn't. The model doesn't transmit over, and so you have infighting. As soon as you add money to the equation, it just turns into a mess. And so it just has to be different. It can't be done the way that mods are generally done. Mods are all just, it's a recreational activity. Everyone wants to go in there so that their creative vision can be realized because they're working for free. They want to get something out of it. But, people develop a game for commercial reasons for the money. Yeah, the way that Magna Mundi self-destructed is a fascinating story. Look it up, anyone who hasn't. It's kind of embarrassing. It's sad. It's embarrassing. Here's the urban production, all the mundane goods. By the way, silk is the highest luxury good, or I mean, purple is luxury goods, blue is mid-range urban goods. Iberia was, I mean, remember, Iberia, this was where Al-Andalus was. It's very developed. It's a pretty beefy place to start. You know, if you form, you know, an Andalusia, so to speak, with Granada, it's pretty good. Oh, were you Elstan? I was there too. I remember. I was like, Magamundi, amazing. All right, let's go to Arumba now, and support him for being so cool, so as to help us all out. Okay, I guess I'm gonna stop. I may start up the stream afterward. I don't know how long it's gonna take, but I'll see you guys there.